Now, I'm not bothered. It doesn't concern me, Madam Deputy Speaker, what any single member opposite thinks about what I believe in and what I stand for. But it does concern that when they slander my constituents and millions of people throughout this country who have legitimate concerns regarding small boats and the social consequences of that.
Honourable members. James Daly.
Speaker, can I just say that, Madam Deputy Speaker, when I start off, that after that quite extraordinary contribution, which mirrors a number of contributions across there, the irony of the benches opposite criticising rhetoric and incendiary language. So far, we've had one who's described the policy as fascist, one who's described the policies as racist, and we've gone through the whole gamut of the left-wing cliches in respect of addressing this. Now, I'm not bothered. It doesn't concern me, Madam Deputy Speaker, what any single member opposite thinks about what I believe in and what I stand for. But it does concern that when they slander my constituents and millions of people throughout this country who have legitimate concerns regarding small boats and the social consequences of that. We are spending £6 million per day. 6 million, 3 billion and rising on hotels. And we are expected simply to do nothing as both a parliament and a government. This is legislation that I believe is needed, and let's get to the heart of this legislation, not the rhetoric that we've heard opposite. So let's see whether the British people disagree with this. So this legislation makes provision for an annual cap on the number of people admitted to the UK through safe and legal routes. Who disagrees with that? Nobody. There are numerous countries all over the world, Madam Deputy Speaker, that have an annual cap, and wouldn't it be nice just for once for this place to take some responsibility for actual immigration policy, not subcontract it to a court or somebody else, to actually decide the type of immigration we need, where we need it. And also, let's talk about this, Madam Deputy Speaker, which is never addressed by the party opposite. What about capacity? In my area, we have no housing. We have no doctor's places. We have no school places. This is something that the party opposite just simply want to ignore. So migration policy is related to a number of different factors, but it's an eminently sensible policy that the people of this country support. Let's go on to the next one, which is such an outrage, to promptly remove those with no legal right to remain in the UK. Now, that as a principle, there's a legitimate debate to have about how successful we've been at it, but how can you argue about that as a principle? That the legal duty on the Home Secretary to remove people within a reasonably practicable time for the 28-day period to allow that to happen, how on earth can that be unreasonable? This is a policy that responds, and what we should have within the system that we've got, it is in the Home Office. We've got this extraordinary situation with the Home Office where we've doubled the number of caseworkers and we've lost productivity. We need some targets. We need people to be held accountable. And what this bill is about, which members opposite do not want, it is holding each and every single one of us accountable for what we believe in terms of immigration policy and how that immigration policy can be put in place in a reasonable, sound and fair way for every single person in our country.